welcome. Welcome to Creative Arts Apothecary. I'm your host, Marina Tselner, and I am so happy to introduce my guest, Rabbi Tzvi Freeman. Rabbi, welcome.
Hi, Marina. Wonderful to be here.
It is wonderful to speak with you. I'm just going to read your bio quickly. Rabbi Tzvi Freeman was born in Vancouver, Canada, where he became involved at an early age in yoga, Tao, and radical politics. In 1975, he left a career as a classical guitarist and composer to study Talmud and Jewish mysticism for 9 years. He's a senior editor at Chabad.org, for which he writes The Daily Dose of Wisdom, from which the meditations of this volume were extracted. This is the book I'm reading. He also directs the Chabad.org Ask the Rabbi team and produces Kabbalah Tunes, a series of short animated videos starring Rabbi Infinity. His other books include Bringing Heaven Down to Earth, 1 and 2, Heaven Exposed, Men, Women, and Kabbalah, and Trembling with Joy. So many of my favorite things in one place right here. The Daily Dose. It must have been 15 years ago, but I can't imagine doing anything every day for 15 years. But
I think I started in 1997, the last century, and it's still going.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And the neat thing is just to see how it's ripped off everywhere else without any accreditation. Okay, at least they could put a credit, but okay, fine. So the imitation is the greatest flattery. So we want those words to get out everywhere.
It's beautiful, so empowering, so brilliant, and yeah, the original. We're bringing it back to the source here. Very cool. Just to set things up, I set off on this interview series. I like to say I was on a healing journey. It was pretty intense. And then it's like, wait a second. I think I've always been on a healing journey. And then I look at the people around me, and I'm like, I think everybody's on the healing journey. And then COVID, the whole world, like, wait a second, I think the whole world's on a healing journey. And I think the whole world's always been on a healing journey. So when I saw your book, I had to gobble it up. And it's one of my regulars in my rotation that I carry around with me. It's just perfect snippets of, where I can fit into my day.
So I have to correct one thing. It's not.
Yes, please.
It's you didn't get to the origin, because I'm not the origin of it. It all started when, after the Rebbe's passing in 95. So at that point, I felt I need to take everything I had learned from the Rebbe. I guess Rabbi Menachem M. Schneerson, the Rebbe of Lubavitch of Chabad, and I had studied there in 770 in the Rebbe's yeshiva and attended his talks and gone through everything written that I could. And I felt a need at this point. I have to package these things, these ideas, in a ways that I'll be able to carry them around with me and deliver them to others as well, but mostly for myself. So I started writing them. See, how can I get this down into a quotable quote, like something memorable, just a few lines? And I started doing it and doing more. And then other people saw, and they said to me, you have to make more of this. You have to do this for everybody. And I ended up with 365 of them. And that was the book, Bringing Heaven Down to Earth, and published in 97. And that was very popular. I think it still is popular. So I just keep on going. If you got a good thing, why stop? I don't know. There's well over 1,000, maybe 1,500 of them by now, but they keep on coming. They keep on coming. And I go back to the old ones and rewrite them. And I get obsessed with getting it exactly right and then throwing it out and starting all over again. You know what it's like. It's called being an artist. You drive yourself nuts. We're all on the borderline of OCD, driving ourselves nuts. If you're not on the borderline, what kind of an artist are you? So this obsession of going back and keeping up, and then they go out every day from Chabad.org.
Can you tell us more about your creative process? Because it's such like a big vision that you have, and yet you tear it all up. But but you come back and you do it and you stick to it. What's that? What is that? Some kind of chutzpah or like, or mission? Like, how do you stay centered and doing your job? A lot of us are like, life is happening, or who am I to think that I could ever do this? What drives you?
This is what I was interested in talking with you, Marina, to talk about creativity. Creativity drives me nuts. I have to create. I can't help it. I have to create. So I can't go a day without, there's got to be something new that came out of me. And if I hear something, I have to find some way to make it new, to produce something from it. And I get such a kick out of that, an adrenal rush out of that. Wow, there's something new over here. I just brought it out of nowhere. Where did it come from? You know, it's like even every time we're speaking and we're starting a sentence, we don't even know how the sentence is going to end. And then you get to the end of the sentence. Where did that come from? And when you're writing it down, it's even more so. You've thought through something, you've got the idea straight, and now you start writing it down and you see what's coming out there in front of them. Where did those ideas come from? So you have this sense of, I'm creating something out of nothing. That's a very godly sense. You know, you feel like in the beginning, you know, here I am, it was really somewhere down there inside you didn't know. So it's not real something from nothing, but you feel that way. You feel like something is coming out of nowhere. And especially when it comes out beautiful and you look back and say, wow, this is beautiful and I made it. So that drives those endorphins, and you just got to keep on going and be creative. And that itself is a very healing process. It's very healing. I think we're not just healing ourselves when we're creating, we're healing the world. You're healing the world because the world, you know, according to Kabbalah of the Arizal, Rabbi Yitzhak Luria in Sfat in the 16th century. So he taught this idea that creation, amazing idea, creation was a catastrophe. It was a deliberate catastrophe. That when the world was being created from the Or Ein Sof, from the infinite light, so God's infinite light, and the first iteration was this world of ideals, everything perfect, world of tremendous, tremendous intense light. And there was no way this light could be contained. It was so intense. I think that's at the beginning of Wisdom to Heal the Earth. You'll see it there. And then, so what happens? So he says, that world shattered. The light was too great, so it shattered. So the light went away. But the shards, the fragments of this shattering, they took a little memory of this light with them, and they fell and they became a world. And that's the world we're in. So as he says, there were other worlds along the way, but each one of those worlds got repaired and they're okay. But the final result was this world that remains unrepaired, a broken world of fragments. And then we, the human being, the human soul is put inside this world. And so the human being goes walking around this world, says, it's a funny thing, this looks broken. Let's take this piece and put it together with this piece. Oh, I see some beauty in this. There's life in here. And this life connects with the life that's over here. And I put it together and wow, hey, this is getting better. At least that's what we're supposed to be doing. A lot of times we're just making it a bigger mess of everything. But we do two steps. We look at something and we see, like we look at a tree, and we say, it's not just a tree. It's not just a piece of wood. It's beautiful as a trunk, branches, leaves, fruits. It has beauty to it. So I give it a name. I call it tree, elm, oak, whatever I'm going to call it. And it has meaning to me beyond just the wood and fibers. It has meaning to me. And then once I can do that, I can connect that beauty with other beauty. I see the life inside each thing and bring out, enhance. And that's called art. That's called creativity. We create value. We create beauty in our world. And I think what we're doing when we're doing that is we're bringing the world back to that original thought, that thought in God's mind that shattered because it was impossible. It was impossible if it would have been made from the top down. But since we're creating it from within, from the bottom up, now it becomes possible. That's what all us artists, if I can include myself, us artists are doing. We're healing the cosmos and bringing it back, recovering the original divine thought from which it emerged. Does that make sense to you, Marina?
Oh, it totally makes sense to me. Thank you. Thank you for putting it so succinctly. Pardon my chutzpah, I feel like I've been walking around saying this and asking, like, do you agree? Do you agree? Or no? So it's just so, actually, that's not true. Lately, the response I've been getting is like, yes. Oh, and I'm an artist too. And I'm an artist too. And I mean, I'm an art teacher. I think everybody's an artist,
Everybody's an artist. If you are a real businessman or business person, you're making business, then it should be an art. You're a salesperson, you're a trader, you're industrialist, whatever it is you're doing. If you're doing it right, if you can tell me what is your business all about, then it's art. Because what you're doing is you're taking these fragments of the world and connecting them together to create value. And since you've created this value for so many people, then you also get a share of the value. And that's art. So really everything that we do is art. Medicine is art. And all forms of teaching are art. But I'm saying, like, international trade, that's also art. And we should see it as art. We should see that really what we're doing, we're not doing it like because we need to survive, because we need the paycheck. That may be some motivation behind it, but that's not the real motivation. The real motivation is that by putting together these pieces of the world, we are seeking the divine and discovering it, uncovering it, recovering it within everything that we find. And that's our true occupation. Like Maimonides, Rambam, he writes that will come a time, be very soon, when the entire occupation of humankind will be only to know the divine. So really, we're doing that right now. If we can get out of our minds that I'm just doing this to make a buck, I'm just doing this because I got nothing else to do. No, really, in everything that we're doing, see that whether you're painting or playing music or trading, building, whatever you're doing, that this is a way of knowing God and bonding with that divine within the universe. Yeah. I see you nodding your head. That's good. That's good. It affirms me. Gives a sense of affirmation. Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Because I had asked you earlier, I was like, Rabbi, what would you like to talk about? And you came back so concise, and it's so heartwarming. Speaking of validation, this is what I've been looking for. You said, yes, I would like to talk about the universe as art and creativity as a means of oneness with its beauty and wisdom. And so I'm just repeating what you said, but it's so good. It's so deep. It's so healing, so necessary. A lot of us are like, I don't have time for that. Like, it's just for fun. It's just for me. I can't worry about myself. I gotta. Yeah. But you're saying this is part of the ecosystem. This is why we're here.
realize that we're all doing something amazing, and all that connectivity. Okay, it has a dark side to it as well, because when connectivity is used with the wrong agenda, a greedy agenda, so it causes all sorts of bad things, causes more illness. But when connectivity is used for the right agenda, which is a sustainable agenda, the wrong agenda is not sustainable in the long term. It's not going to last. But when it's used for the right things, and we're connecting people in that way. Oh, this was one of the most amazing experiences for me, from one of the gems we found in the dark pit of the pandemic, was when musicians, what are they going to do? I mean, musicians need other musicians. You can't stay locked in your four walls of your apartment. So what did musicians do? They found ways that we can still create a symphony. We'll lay the track behind it, get with the meter, send it to everybody. Everybody has their studio in their own apartment, and we all recorded our music and put it together. And you know what? It sounded even better. So I saw that as, wow, this is humankind. Humankind, it's not that technology is creating something new. The technology is revealing who we really are. We're a single organism that's stretched out like a membrane over the entire globe. And we all need each other and connect with each other in such a way that we create beauty. And this was really the miracle of the past 2 years. But it goes on. This connectivity created not just beauty, but beauty created the sustainability, that we were able, the stability, the resilience of humankind to be able to withstand such blows of a worldwide pandemic, and then a major war going on in the breadbasket of Europe. And there's still bread, and there's still food, and people are still alive. The world is still here. And it's really only because we have this connectivity, and we end up, in many cases, using it for the right things. That's to be cherished. It's really to be embraced and cherished. And yeah, I know people say, well, there was this one wrong, and that's bad, and this is, yeah, there's mud. Yes, there's lots of mud. When you're looking for jewels, you're mostly going to find mud. But don't look for the mud. Look for the beautiful, shining jewels. And there's so much of that today that we can look for and embrace. Right.
Tell us about the recording studio you got back there.
The problem with this recording studio is, as soon as you bring in a real instrument, it kind of disappears. This is called living in two worlds at once, so it doesn't really work. But that's the world we're going to have to get used to. We're creating this other virtual reality, and we have to live inside both worlds. And will humanity manage that? Somehow we'll manage it. We'll heal the planet, and we'll heal ourselves, and somehow it's going to work.
Yes, absolutely. May it be so. And it is working. It does work. Just the guitar, I'm going to guess back there, works. And it's a perfect metaphor, like how you said, living in two worlds at once.
Let me tell you a story. I think this is really a story about what I was saying, the art, the creativity of healing the cosmos. So this is a story about a man they put in an elevator in a shaft, and they sent him down, 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 down. And left him there for a while, and then they pull him up, 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 up. Okay, they open the elevator, they ask him, so what did you find? And he says, it was dark. Okay, it was dark, but what did you find? He says, it was cold. Okay, dark and cold, yeah. But what did you find? He said, it was dirty, mud. They said to him, we know it's dark, it's cold, and it's dirty. It's a gold mine. Where is the gold? So there are people who come into the world, and you're a neshama, you're a divine being, you're like a, so to speak, a chunk of God is invested inside this meat patty with eyeballs, and you walking around. Okay, so it's difficult, it's painful, fine, okay. And the soul looks around and says, this is no longer the Garden of Eden. No, where? So what am I supposed to do over here? And so you have two paths. So there are those who look around, they say, it's dark, it's cold, it's dirty, this is wrong, that's wrong, this is wrong. The whole place is destroying itself, it's bad. Okay. Then after 120 years, this neshama, this breath of God, goes back and it gives its report. He said, what did you find? It's disgusting. What did you find? So we know all that. What did we send you there for? So there's another neshama comes into the world, and it looks and it sees, wow, look under there, I see something shining in the darkness, in the dirt. There is something shining in there. I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to clean it off. I'm going to, whoa, this is so nice. This is so beautiful. Wow, where will I put this? I know, I've got to find more of these. And I get another one and another one. And by the time he comes up or she comes up at 120 years, I said, what did you find? He said, look what I made. Look what I created from your world. And then you have a picture of your family and your children and grandchildren, and you have the book that you wrote and the music that you made and the people that you made happy, and the souls down there that got some hope because you gave them encouraging words, have something to show. So I'm saying that's an artist, because the job of an artist is to look at anything and see in whatever you see the beauty there that's waiting, that's calling to you, please rescue me, liberate me, bring me out of here. That's what we do. That's the creative work that we do, and it's a divine mission. You should feel good about it. So I have more stories like that. Should I tell more stories like that?
Yeah, sure. Please. I have this burning question. Are you going to play the guitar? Yes, tell
Okay, you might be to play guitar. Okay, so let me tell you something about the guitar. These guitars back here, they're not real, but this guitar that you can hardly see this disappearing guitar, but it's real, right? I've had this guitar since I was, I think, 16 years old, this one. There's a mellow tone. Okay, the strings need changing, but it's a nice mellow tone. So I got it actually from my bar mitzvah money. For my bar mitzvah, somebody bought me bonds, and of course, my muzzle with bonds, they shrunk instead of growing. So I sold them out at 16 years old, and with the money, I bought myself a guitar. And the guitar, I figured, King David played guitar, right? Kinor, it's called a kinor. So the neat thing about a guitar is that you touch the music, right? It's piano. You're so far away from the strings. You've got a whole machine between you and the music. And if you're playing a flute or a wind or brass instrument, so your mouth, you're breathing the music. You're breathing the music, but the music is still outside of you. And violin, you're touching it with one hand, but the other hand has a bow. And with a guitar, with both hands, you're touching the music. You're feeling the vibrations. And your fingers are bringing it out. So, but what you discover with a guitar is sometimes you ask yourself, who is creating the music? Is it me or the instrument? I'll tell you why. Because you start playing and you do something like you might do... oh, that's interesting. I didn't know my guitar could do that. So you try something else. Oh, And the guitar starts speaking to you, and it's saying to you, do this with me, do that with me, try this. It says things to you, you discover, and that triggers. So I'm saying because people think of creativity as sort of a one-way street. I create. The language lends itself to that. But anybody who's experienced in creating knows it doesn't really work that way. I think a classic example is when you have the clay on the potter's wheel and something is coming out of there, and the clay is telling you what it wants to be, forming itself. But it happens to musicians, the instrument, the music, or the audience. The audience is bringing something out that you didn't know was there, and you discover that. With writers, you have something called character hijack, where you create a character for your story. You need this character for your story. And so you develop your character, and then the character hijacks the story. You tell them you have to say these lines, and the character says back to you, I can't say those lines. Those are out of character for me. What are you going to do? You're the writer, but the character doesn't want to listen to you. So you have to say to the character, what would you like to say? And your character says back to you, I have to do this, and I have to say that. Well, what choice do I have? That's the way the story is going now. And you end up very often with a much better story because you were listening to your characters. So you're going to say, well, that's not really godlike because he just calls all the shots and creates a universe. But no. God interacts with his universe. Yes, he created it, but he listens to it. And that's why we talk to him. And we say to him, you know what, we don't like the way this story is going. Could you please change it? You know, it's like the actor talking to the director. You know, you're in this scene, you're in an apartment, and it's pouring rain outside, and it's dark inside, and it's late at night. And there before you lies your beloved in a pool of blood on the floor, and your cell phone isn't working, and the sirens are in the distance coming closer but too far away. And then you scream, cut the lights. You turn to the director and you say, this script stinks. It can't go this way. I don't like this story. We got to change this. And the director says, you got any good ideas? That's what we call prayer. So yes, God is creating the world. At every moment, he recreates the world out of nothing. Every moment, again and again and again. So you're going to think, well, it's totally in his hands. No, but he creates us inside it and listens to us and asks us to tell me from inside, what does it look like? And we tell him. In that way, we're being part of God because we are telling him how we believe this story should go. And then it comes out a very beautiful story. That's how the entire universe is, this dance. A dance, a pas de deux. We're both dancing together and creating something very beautiful. Okay, it looks ugly at times, but it's really very beautiful. Do you see that in your art as well?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I'm really glad you brought up prayer because that comes up a lot. I mean, to the point where in our circles we call them we do painting. We're painters, mixed media artists, variety of artists, but talk about it as a devotional art, or we call them painted prayers. Or I think I feel shy even asking about this. I can't pretend to be an expert at all on Jewish mystical thought or philosophy, or it's my passion. So, but before I even knew how to pray formally, I really didn't know until recently, and I'm still learning how. I had my art was like an intuitive way that I found my path to, like, my connection to that divine source that you're talking about, to where it was like this point of bliss, no matter what was going on, where I could open up in gratitude, no matter what was going on. Once I got that off my chest in this creative process, then I could really be like, thank you, God. And so it was like an intuitive kind of prayer. And it really, and we talk about that in the creative circles that I see, that I'm a part of.
Yeah. So it's all about that. It's all about this connecting with the transcendent and the oneness of it all, and the gratefulness you're talking about, and expressing what's inside you, bringing that out, creating that. Everything we do, you can't stop. I saw some beautiful things that you made. You're taking disparate pieces, joining them together, and creating beauty out of them. So our whole lives should be that way.
Amen. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate the whole range of the work that you do, from like really complicated to cartoons, right? So you're making
the cartoons, the Kabbalah tunes. Those were so much. So we made about, I think, 100 of them, the Kabbalah tunes.
So cool.
Yeah, and the idea was, because we had very limited resources, and as you know, every artist loves to be limited in, these are the resources you have, and that's it. Now create art out of it, because that's when you have to create good art, right? If you got everything at your disposal, you can cheat. But when you're told, like, write a perfect essay in 257 words, no less, no more, exactly 257. So then you really have to hone your skills, like writing haiku poetry or something like that. So here initially we only had 1 minute. We actually 2 minutes. Sometimes we even did 4 or 5 minutes, but that's it. Now get across a deep Kabbalistic idea, so that a 4-year-old could understand it in an animated cartoon and make it really entertaining. But it's a challenge, right? So you squeeze yourself, and sometimes we got it right. We did it. But they need to be squeezed. So you have to have those restrictions, really, to create good art. That's a lot about being Jewish, is that experience. Because, people are critical of the traditional Jewish way of life, because you got to keep kosher. You can't eat this, you can't eat that. On this day you can't work, and this way you do work, and this is the way it's. And you say, well, you've got all these restrictions on yourself. Yeah, but you don't understand. Those are the same restrictions. What time do those restrictions? Those are restrictions like these frets and strings. I only got 6 strings. I got 12 frets to the neck. Well, there's more up here, but are hard to use. And those are restrictions. And you know what I do out of those restrictions? I create beauty. If I didn't have those restrictions, I wouldn't be able to do that. But that's where beauty comes from, okay? Work within these parameters and create beauty out of it. And you create much, much greater beauty than if you didn't have restrictions. Beauty demands restrictions, because beauty is a paradox. Beauty means you're fitting the infinite into the finite. The more infinite and the more finite you get, the more beautiful it's going to be. So that's a Jewish life, fitting an infinite God into all the minutiae details of a Jewish life and the Jewish calendar. But it works, it's beautiful.
I would be happy to keep going. I want to be respectful of your time, and but I have this, you brought up calendar. So before I let you go, I have one more question about the calendar. Can you speak to that, to the calendar and the healing component of the Jewish calendar?
Well, I'll tell you one thing that's really relevant this year is, so many of us are still coming out of the pandemic. Many of us got used to being alone, being isolated, being like writers, all alone in your, okay. So it's really a time now for people to come back together and be with each other. And the Jewish calendar provides these wonderful opportunities. Like, for example, every Shabbat on a Friday night is a fantastic time for everybody to come together. It's actually this year, every 7 years is called a Hakel year, when everybody comes together. This is a Hakel year. So you have all these Jewish events. It's not just a one time a year Thanksgiving thing. It's every 7 days, right? And then we're going to have Hanukkah at the end of December this year. And that's 8 days in a row to get everybody together, as many people as you can together. And it's that connectivity of connecting people together that's true art. You know, I think you've seen for yourself, I'm sure, to get, say, 10, 15 people around a Shabbos table, that's art. You create something so beautiful. Somebody has a story prepared, somebody has some words of Torah to say, and there's delicious food and delicious wine, and everybody sings together. And this is the ultimate living art. And yeah, I hope people take advantage of this year to bring everybody, connect everybody, all that connectivity of creativity. Be a beautiful year.
Amen. Yes, yes. Thank you. Thanks for all the work that you do. Thanks for the inspiration. Is there anything you'd like to add before we sign off?
No, I'll send you a recording. I don't like playing live. It's not the situation for playing live. I'll send you a recording.
Yeah. Oh, super. Okay, so I'll add it on. That'll be great. That's such a treat.
Okay.
Just
It's been wonderful talking to you. Everything's good. Fantastic.
same. Thank you so much.